a spending spree showdown in Washington. President Biden wants $3.5 trillion in spending and more than $1 trillion for infrastructure. But Speaker Pelosi delayed the vote because of the division among the moderates and the progressives in the Democratic Party.
Biden's going to work like hell to make sure we get both these passed. And I think we will get them passed.
Do you think by Thanksgiving, sir? Do you think this could be all done by Thanksgiving?
I think it'll be done by 2:27 a.m. on December. Come on. I think it will get done. Plenty of time for it to be part of changing the tax code for people next year.
All right. After Nancy Pelosi delayed the vote, she wrote in a letter to Democratic colleagues, quote, more time is needed to complete the task. Now, Democrats want free community college for all illegal immigrants. They want spend of $12 billion for government electric cars and $3 billion for tree equity. Yes, you heard me right. Moderates won't support the spending bill. Progressives want all $3.5 trillion of it.
The two wings of the party, there's the AOC Bernie wing. They want both bills, and they're going to hold the one hostage till they get them both. The other, more moderate side, they're very mad at Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. They're the two Democrats who are holding up, and they're mad at them because they're not progressive enough, forgetting that they only got elected because they're not progressive, because they're moderates. Here's my question. Does spending more money make you a better person or a bigger moderate?
All right, Sean Duffy, let's start with you and pick up where Bill Maher left off, right? Obviously, he's talking about the moderates in the Senate that are going to be a holdout here, but you've got Pelosi and Biden saying, nope, we're going to get this done. It doesn't sound like it's going to be $3.5 trillion because the votes aren't there. What does this look like when it's done in October or November?
Well, what does it look like when we watch Bill Maher and go, this is a guy with some common sense who's a radical progressive, right? But I think you make a good point. So Joe Manchin has come out and said, listen, I'm not spending more than $1.5 trillion. That's put a pick in the balloon of a lot of the liberals over in the House that want to have this massive bill. And the problem here, Jackie, is that Nancy Pelosi has built up a lot of credibility over the course of decades in Congress. She told the moderates that if they voted for this reconciliation package, that was the $3.5 trillion, she would bring up their infrastructure package on the 27th of September. Well, that date has come and gone, and she never brought it up for a vote, right? So she's lost all kinds of credibility. But let's take a moment and talk about these numbers. We spent trillions of dollars last year, Jackie, on COVID relief under President Trump. But that money wasn't even spent. And this year, Democrats spent $1.9 trillion on COVID relief. They want to spend $1.2 trillion on infrastructure and $3.5 trillion on this progressive new bill that's going to give Green New Deal spending and give us redistribution. That's actually going to be $5 trillion, $5.5 trillion. We're talking $8 trillion this year alone. This is insanity. And just one last point. On the infrastructure bill, only half of it is for infrastructure. And because they didn't reform the way that we do the permitting process, you're not going to build roads and bridges for 10 years. There's no new roads and bridges coming in America. It's 10 years from now.
Right. The $3.5 trillion we're talking about is that human infrastructure, if you will. And to your point, Sean, we are living in an environment of massive inflation right now. Spending more isn't going to help it at the moment. But I want to switch gears for a moment because, Lisa, when we talk about Nancy Pelosi, she's been doing this forever. And even though she might have lost a little credibility, she's got a lot of confidence in herself. Listen.
I'm a master legislator. I am a strategic, politically astute leader. I am my leadership is recognized by many around the country.
Lisa, what do you think she can do here?
Well, she's also been in charge under historic losses if you look at elections like the 2010 midterm election. So maybe she's a little too big for her britches here. But look, there's been all this heat. The progressives are pointing all their ire at, Sinema and Manchin. Look, they're not up for re-election until 2024. Do you think they care about this political heat now? The political dynamics and headwinds are going to look so different heading into the 2024 election. They don't care. But what I think is interesting is if you look at Virginia, which of course is the governor's race, which is going to be a good bellwether for what the midterms in 2022 next year are going to look like. What has Terry McAuliffe been saying, the Democrat there? He has actually said the $3.5 trillion price tag is too high and Democrats should just go with the infrastructure bill. So what does that mean then if you look at Democrats who are running for re-election in the midterms that have tough races? When you look at people like Mark Kelly, Maggie Hassan, Raphael Warnock, Catherine Masto as well, or really any Democrat running in a competitive district in the House. So I think Democrats should actually, maybe slow their roll here, because they're Nancy Pelosi could be once again walking her party off a cliff.
She sure could be. And when it comes to Manchin and Sinema, of course, they are responding to what their constituents want. And that's the issue here. Tyrus, I want to get straight to you, because $1.5 trillion floated by Joe Manchin. It's still a lot of human infrastructure to add to the spending that we've already done. But AOC says, even that much, not enough. Listen.
The bill passes that is underfunded, that only gives a crumb. You get that crumb. Yep. Because when you only give some and not all, then some people get nothing. When you tell me, isn't something better than nothing? What I hear, what you're actually telling me, isn't something for you better? Isn't something for you better? And why don't you accept nothing so that I can get something?
All right, so she's saying it's got to be all or nothing. Some would say that she's being unreasonable there. Tyrus, your thoughts?
Well, when you say 6 on one hand and 5 on the other, that makes 4. Sometimes when you film on a phone, it looks small, but when you're making a speech and you can hear individual people breathing, that shows how much real support she really has. And the second thing, this is why you never, ever see anyone go up to a politician and go, thank you for your service, because no one thanks you for self-service. And that's exactly what the progressives are about. They're not about the American people. They know we have a bill, which is already high, that we could pass, the first infrastructure bill. But no, because they're not interested in infrastructure. They're not interested in fixing the country. They're interested in making programs that their special interest groups and friends can make money on, i.e. electric cars, spending for the government. And I'm trying to understand this, because right now in this country, everyone who's here, who's an American citizen, has friends and family members losing small businesses, and restaurants can't stay open. But you want to make sure illegal immigrants get a great education at a junior college.
Yeah, you bring up a great point.
Just confused.
We've got a lot of small businesses that are suffering. They can't hire people, even if they raise wages, because after the pandemic, Sean, nobody really wants to work anymore. But another issue here is really the split that we've got in the Senate, right? When it's 50-50 like this, the Democrats know, even the progressives know, they only have a limited amount of time to get things done. So they better figure out a way to come together, come up with a number that works more than, maybe it's more than 1.5, maybe it's less than 3.5, Sean. But they need to do this now. I mean, that's the bottom line. Well,
no, I think that's a really good point. And as AOC says, I'm not going to take part of the pie. I want the whole pie. Well, I'm sorry. You have 2 chambers. One is in the House, and they can get all the votes in the House for this massive spending. But as you pointed out, Jackie, there's a 50-50 split in the Senate, and you can't lose one senator. So Manchin and Sinema hold a lot of cards as to what the final deal will look like. And I served in Congress for almost 10 years. And what's interesting is you have people who think they're really pure. They're pure conservative, or they're pure liberal, and they're not about compromise. Well, if you want to get 100% of everything that you want, whether it's in the Congress or in marriage, you end up with getting nothing. The answer will be 0 for you. That's why the Congress was made up, for people to compromise. And so the sooner AOC recognizes that, the sooner she gets to a lower number, which, by the way, even $1.5 trillion is massive, and I disagree with that number, too.
Yeah, and compromise is such an important word here. Remember, when Biden ran, he said he was going to be a unifier. He was going to bring both sides together. It doesn't look like it so much right now. All right, we're going to have to leave it there, guys. So much for the border, though, being closed, how bad the Biden administration thinks it could get at the border, as new numbers show how bad it already is. We're going to give you those numbers coming up next.